Hello, welcome to the Emergency Home Learning Summit. My name is Maggie Brennan, and I'm delighted to be back. I gave a presentation about all different ways you can do online assessments and testing and different things like that on October 21st. If you'd like to take a look at that one, that's the recording is still available. But today I'm here for a different reason. Today we're going to talk about blended learning tips for stressed out teachers. And I gave it that title because honestly, right now, that's all I hear from my teacher friends, how stressed out and exhausted everybody is all the time. And it's understandable. This is a difficult time. So I put together my best tips. I talked to tons of people, did all kinds of research online as to what we can do, how I can help maybe reduce the stress a little bit and get us back to what we love, which is just the teaching part, right? So let me show you what we're going to talk about today. But for first, I will tell you a little bit about me. My name is Maggie. As I said, I am a teacher, a former teacher, to be honest, and I'm now an instructional technology coach. I work with all different levels from kindergarten through secondary, the end of secondary, and I'm very proud to say I teach all different level teachers as well. That's what makes my job so interesting. I run an educational consulting company that is obviously got my name, Brennan Educational Consulting. I work on lots of different projects. Technically, I work out of Buenos Aires. That's where I live with my husband, who is Argentine. And we lived in New York for many years, but I'm actually making this recording from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, which is where I grew up and where my mom lives. And that's who I'm visiting. I come back and forth a lot, so I'll be here for the next few weeks. And this is what I do. I teach and train teachers online. Incidentally, if anybody's interested in coming to Buenos Aires, I have lots of tips for working online from Buenos Aires as well. So keep me in mind. And if you'd like any more information about me or my services or what I offer, please check out my website, which is brennan-consulting.com. So today, personally, I don't know about you, but when I watch a lot of these online videos, I really like to know what the whole topic is going to be about, what the whole recording is going to talk about. And so I really like giving an outline first so that you know. Just so you know, give the outline, but the presentation will be under 30 minutes. All right. So first of all, I'm going to talk about how we can do less. Exactly. You read that right. Not how I can do more and be more efficient. No, how you can do less, which is difficult for us teachers. Am I right? How you can make the technology work for you rather than you constantly struggling with it or creating new things or big projects or whatever. We're going to try to lessen your workload with some technology tools. Some good tips for how to spread out the work so it's not you doing everything. How to have a little fun along the way, because I think sometimes we forget about that. And how to walk away, which may seem like an obvious idea or easy to get up and do, to remember to have a little time for yourself. But I think we teachers forget to do that. So I'm going to give you some tips for how to make sure you stop working too. All right, so let's just jump right in. Tip number one, do less. I know it seems obvious and you're saying, yeah, I know. But it's so important to be kind to yourself right now and to allow yourself to be enough. Now, that may sound like I'm trying to be your psychologist, but I kind of am. How often have you heard your friends, your other teacher friends, or have you yourself said, I just don't have enough time and I want to be able to do more and I can never do enough, or like I said, I want to do more. Well, now is the time to pull back and to stop trying to do so much. It's really important to say to yourself, what do I really need to do here? What is the part of my syllabus that's great, but is not absolutely essential? Because remember, the important thing right now is that you are showing up on a daily basis. You are connecting with kids who may feel lonely or disconnected or bored. And what you're showing them, what you're teaching them is resilience. You're teaching them how to be flexible when things don't go the way you wanted it to go. You know, that nobody planned for this pandemic, but we're making it work. You're giving them a voice and you're listening to them. All of those are so much more important than your content, the unit on, irregular verbs. You need to develop that community. That's what's more important right now, which may involve having a little fun. It may involve pulling back on your lessons and units and syllabus. The important part is to show up and to listen right now. So developing that relationship is more important than any test or grade or final exam would ever be. And in the process, I think doing less, you could incorporate some mindfulness. Now, again, I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a mindfulness expert, but I have a friend who does this cute exercise. She teaches French, and it's a very common foreign language exercise at the beginning of any class, whether it's in person or online. You ask them in the target language, you say, what day is it today? And what is the weather like today? And how are you feeling today? Well, that is particularly more important in these COVID times and these online or hybrid teachings, that you do ask them those questions in the target language, but take it one step further. And this is what she does. She says, okay, let's say today it's raining. Does every single day rain? Is it always like this? No. And then you ask them, how are you feeling today? And they say, I'm tired. Okay. Every single day of your life, are you tired? Every single day you feel this exact same way? No. The idea is that you're grounding them into, this is what's happening today, but it isn't always like this. You kind of give them this world view, this beyond time view that allows them to remember that we have good days, we have bad days, and there's more than just what you're feeling today. The other mindfulness techniques are to breathe deeply, which is wonderful for your stress as well as for theirs. It also, breathing deeply or doing any of these activities as a group also creates community, builds your relationship with them. Other mindfulness techniques are just massaging. Everybody massages their own hands. That grounds them again, that allows them some time to think, that brings them into the present and into feeling their physical body so that they can remember that it's not all up here. It's not all worry and problems, And then lastly, stretching. Just get up and stretch. That is so important. The science will show you, if you look it up, that it reduces your stress levels. It reduces the cortisol, I think it's called, the cortisol in your brain, and gives everybody a little bit of a break. So those are my little mindfulness and doing less techniques for tip number 1. All right, moving on to tip number 2. Why don't you just try to experiment with different ways of teaching right now? Now, you're probably thinking, why are you telling me to experiment with new stuff right now? I can barely keep up with the old stuff. This is so hard. And I get it. You're right. But ironically, now is the time to kind of experiment with some new stuff, partially because you don't have any other choice. We've been thrown into using a lot more technology than we probably used in the past, right? But also think about it. There's been a lot less emphasis on standardized exams, on college entrance exams, on final grades. So now is the time that you could try some new things when you might not have been able to have enough time or get away with these new techniques in the past. Maybe now you can. And if you've got good administrators and good backup behind you, they would totally encourage you to try new things right now. Something like, as I said, loosen up a bit and try something new. Maybe breaking your large group into stations. Stations is really popular in elementary school, and I don't think we use it enough in high school or in higher education. But my next slide, I'll explain to you exactly how I have done some stations work, both in online and in hybrid models. But so let me explain that in a minute. But moving on, now is the time to try these short video recordings. It's also called flipped classrooms. I think often A lot of people have already tried these flipped classrooms. It either worked or they felt like they were forced to do it. But experiment with all different things. Maybe you want the camera on your computer to record you. Maybe you want to try something just on your cell phone. Maybe you want to try it just as an audio or just as the screen recording that doesn't include your face. Whatever you do, make sure that it's short and it's to the point, no more than 5 minutes, even less is better, 2 to 3 minutes. Because remember, it's not only how you deliver the content, it's how the content is received by the students. Maybe they want to watch it at midnight. Maybe they want to watch it a couple of times because they didn't get it the first time. So this is the moment where we experiment and we play around. I know this is not a new idea. I'm just trying to encourage you to try different ways of doing it to see what works for you. And if you haven't tried it, now's the time. I also have had a lot of luck with PBLs, which is project-based learning. Now, what I'm referring to are some kind of big, meaty topics, not something that's like, write an essay or, look up Martin Luther King and write a one-page thing on him. What I'm trying to get more towards are the idea of something that may take a couple of months. For example, I had a student who did a whole huge multidisciplinary topic on creating a new train line for his city, or a train line or a bus line. As you can see, something like that would involve math and science and social studies. It would involve city planning and politics. It would involve art and design for his promotions of it, etc. Another interesting project I had students do is they developed a food truck where they created the new food, and they had to design the truck, and they had to figure out where they could park it, and they had to work with the city planning, because you can't just take those anywhere. So that was really interesting too. I admit these require mature students and students who really are kind of independent as well, but maybe we could encourage those things. And typically the first time you do these projects, they aren't as well as a well-greased wheel as they can be in the future. But try them now. Now is the time. Highly would suggest to provide intervals by which the work is due. So you meet with the students on a weekly or bi-weekly basis to make sure they're making progress when you have a large project like this. But it may allow a lot of great things. When they work in smaller groups, they're developing relationships with each other. They are not part of one big group, like let's say 25 students, where they feel a little bit lost in the group. They all have their roles. It could encourage more creativity, flexibility, and independence. All of those may be a new way for you to teach your topic and a new way for them to learn. And it might be something worth trying. So try to experiment with different ways of teaching. All right, getting back to the stations model that I was referring to. Imagine you take your class of 25 people and you divide it into 4 groups. The first group could be the teacher-led small group. That's where you are in the group with the, let's say, 4 or 5 students. You could be working with them or just kind of checking in with them. You could have work on something that's assigned, or just following up after they've done the assignment. Anything where you're actually connecting, building relationships with them and connecting with them. Another group could just be individual reading time. So it's not really a group, it's individual work where they are reading something on their own, completing an assignment on their own. This is literally alone time. A third group could be doing online computer work. And by that, what I mean is something that you've set up previously that they take this time to do. Maybe it's an Edpuzzle video where they watch the video and you've inserted questions in the middle. Or maybe you've put together a Google Slides presentation that they read it, and then with Pear Deck, you've added, Pear Deck is an extension onto Google Slides that allows you to ask questions, and they all have to answer them individually, and then you see all of the separate answers. So that's something that they could do as like a computer station, that online computer work that you have set up ahead of time. And then the fourth group could be a student-led small group. Maybe they're working on their projects, or maybe they're working together, or there's one leader of the group who's guiding the other ones through the assignment, anything like that. Now, if you're in a hybrid situation, the top two groups, the teacher-led small group and the student-led small group, could be the ones that are in class, and the individual reading time or online computer work could be the ones that are working remotely, whether that's live remote work where you're actually, you have them on Zoom at the same time, or whether they're just working independently alone at home. That could work well as well. Or you could divide them into these 4 groups on Monday like this, and then everybody switches groups. And on Tuesday, you do, everybody switches groups. So lots of different ways of working your stations model. And it doesn't have to be a whole class like this. Remember, you could have the whole group together for 10 minutes at the beginning of class, and then break into these groups and then come back together. There's all different ways of breaking it up, but try new things. I think it's very refreshing for you as a teacher to try new things, and refreshing for them, and do it more than once to see if it actually works. Those would be my tips for you. All right, tip number 3. I have a couple of ideas to improve your Zooming. Now, I'm saying Zooming, and I'm really referring to any kind of online teaching, but Zoom is the one that has the most highly developed breakout rooms. I know that there are ways of doing it with Google Meet and with Microsoft Teams, and I'm sure they're developing their breakout room technology as we speak. I know that Teams is coming out, or maybe they've just come out with something now. But so when I say breakout rooms, I'm specifically referring to Zoom, but maybe you could make it work with your other platforms as well. I think they really do help with student engagement in the class in general. It also really helps with developing your relationships with them whenever you can break into smaller groups. That's what's most important. So have you ever tried allowing them to pick their own breakout rooms? My next slide will explain that a little bit further, but it's a great way of breaking into smaller groups so that you can work with them individually. They can work with students that they don't normally work with. They feel like they have a choice and a voice. So important. Or there's another idea that, when you break into breakout rooms, it doesn't have to be 3 or 4 people. You could literally have every student in their own room. So let's say you do some type of initial activity at the beginning of class where everybody's together online, initial instruction. And then if you've got 20 kids in the class, break into 20 breakout rooms, have them be working on something, and then you come in and out with each group, or it's not a group, each individual breakout room with one student in them. It would allow you to touch base with them, to have a private conversation. Yes, it's a little time consuming, but like I said, remember right now, what is most important is connection. It's making sure that they feel heard. It's developing your community, your tribe with them. And the time spent here, I think, will be so highly rewarded with students feeling heard and students feeling connected to you and not so alone in their homes or in their bedrooms and disconnected. Just whatever you do, break into small groups as much as possible, whether that's physically in small groups or online. And remember, you don't always have to have a breakout room of just people who are physically present in the classroom and just people who are on Zoom. You can mix and match. Make sure your in-person student is connected with somebody on Zoom. And that way you can build connection within the groups as well. All right, let me explain to you how these breakout rooms work. You create 3 breakout rooms. One is the quiet room for silent individual work. The second one is group work, where students help each other and they work together. And the third one is where you, the teacher, you stay in that group and give any additional instruction, or you answer questions, etc. So you tell them what the groups are. You give them a little graphic like this as to which ones they are. And then this is how you do it. You have the students rename themselves in the chat there with a 1, 2, or 3 in front of their name. So it's important that they keep their name there, but they add a 1, 2, or 3 in front of their name. And then you click on the breakout room button, and where you see breakout room 1, 2, and 3, you can rename them. And you include number 1, quiet room, number 2, group work, number 3, teacher help, so that it has the number there. So then when you go to click on the breakout rooms, the students have included their 1, 2, or 3. And when you launch the breakout rooms, they'll automatically go into the appropriate group. It's a pretty cool feature. The only thing that doesn't work real well is if you have the majority wants to go into 1 and 2 and nobody wants to go into 3. The program doesn't like that too much. So you may have to kind of distribute fairly evenly who goes into each group. But, technology is also changing too. So I would imagine that within a couple of months, this that little kink may be worked out as well. But like I said, it gives students choices and it gives them a voice in what they want to do and what they need, which is so important right now too. So choosing your own breakout room is a great idea. All right, tip number 3 to improve your Zoom is, what about using a little sign language or silent signals so that the people who are observing the presentation don't interrupt? Online, it's hard enough to kind of get the flow of the online class or conversation or instruction part of the lesson, that silent signals may be really helpful. You know how on the bottom there of the menu on Zoom, they have those little emojis that are, one is like a hand raising or a thumbs up or a clap. So they can click on those easily and it appears in their little window. Or they could do it physically. They could just go like this when they were asked for feedback, does everybody understand? And you do this, or that they like that, whatever, that they're clapping, they can do it physically. But I got a great idea from an article I read in EdUtopia, which was to actually use sign language. And this is building on other skills, other language skills. For example, there's a young woman who has very short little videos on YouTube. They're literally 5-second videos to show you American Sign Language for something like the same. This one is same, or me too, or slow, like, could you slow down? I can't understand you, or I can't hear you, or again. Now, when I watched the video for again, it's, she pulls her top hand over her bottom hand for again. That didn't resonate with me. And I thought, if I were the teacher, I would say, this is again, do it again. And then I thought, why not create your own signals with the class? Everybody develops what they think is a good symbol for yes or no, or again, or slow down, or repeat. And that's another way of building community. That might be another fun class activity to do. And then you also determine how you want to use those signals and when, some class rules for the signaling. But I think it would tremendously help with the interruption and the issue with the mic, being kind of on a delay and connects with the last person that was talking. So I thought those were some interesting tips to use some signaling online. All right, moving on to tip number 4. I call it ready to use technology tools. Rather than you recreating the wheel every time, take some type of technology that you like, that and use what's already there. So for example, if you love Flipgrid, click on the Discovery tab at the top of the Flipgrid menu, and there's tons of pre-created resources. So for example, museums or nonprofits or big for-profit companies or other teachers have already created material that you can use. I love the Met. They have tons of stuff. Now, I don't know if you can see it down here. This is the most popular video, Making Mummies, it's called. So you can see, the mummies as part of the Met's collection. And then they have a prompt as to what they want, what and how they want the students to respond with their own little Flipgrid videos. Or what about Minecraft? The education edition shows you the worlds that they have created, and then asks the students to create, in their Flipgrid video, to describe another world that they have created, or add another character or tools, etc., to get them involved that way. Or what about just searching for your actual content? Like I said, I used to teach Spanish, so you can search for reflexive verbs, or, Spanish irregular verbs, or, cultural things. So you can search for what other teachers have already prepared and they've made public. And then all you do is you click on them and you add them to your discussion. It's a fabulous way. You can either contribute to that particular teacher has already created. So you're maybe participating with other students around the world or around the country, or you can kind of make it your own and then just have your students responding to each other. But there's so much ready-made material out there. There's no reason for you to be creating it totally from scratch. For example, maybe Flipgrid isn't your thing. What about Khan Academy? You guys must know Khan Academy, right? It's an online website. It's free. It's heavily funded by the Gates Foundation, and there are whole, the state of California, I believe the entire state uses Khan Academy to teach math. I took a screenshot of all the different courses that Khan Academy offers, and this isn't even all of them. So what you're seeing there are full courses, not just a lesson. You could, your students could learn math, science, art and humanities, language arts, life skills, economics and business, history, just tons of things. And as you probably know, Khan Academy is set up into different lessons. So the one lesson may include a video, it may include an audio, it may include a text that they need to read. And then they always have to take some type of little test to make sure that they've understood the material before they can move on to lesson number 2. And you as the teacher, if you set up like a little class, you as the teacher can monitor their progress and see how much time they've spent on it and how well they're doing on the tests or quizzes. Or you can just use it as a differentiation assignment and have them work on something on their own without you monitoring it. But in either case, it's a ton of material that is all ready to go that you don't need to create. So I think it's a great resource. And lastly, another great resource is Quizlet. I don't know if you know Quizlet, but it's a wonderful website and an app that kind of is, it starts with the basics, which is like flashcards. You as the teacher, or the student could do themselves, enters in terms and definitions. Like the term would be on the front and the definition would be on the back. Or a picture with words. You can do lots of different things. But then the program itself mixes and matches all of that different information, and they see it as the student themselves sees it as flashcards or as multiple choice questions or true and false or even games. It's wonderful, a wonderful website, and the free version is quite complete. So what you could do is, rather than creating your own, this is a screenshot from my account, rather than creating my own set of cards, I can go and search whatever topic I may be teaching. So I could search for irregular verbs, or I could search for fractions, or I could search for medical terms and anatomy, etc. There's tons of things there, hundreds and thousands of sets. My only tip is review it before you assign your class, because assign it to your class or to a student, because I had that happen once where a student found a set that I thought was great, and then he studied the wrong spelling of some words. So I had to correct that, and he had to go back. So just make sure you check it over thoroughly before you assign it to your class. And don't make the same mistake I did, All right, so moving on, tip number 5, don't recreate the wheel every single time. Don't do all the work yourself. Have the students prepare a Kahoot or a Quizlet or a quizzes or whatever it may be. Again, review the content just to make sure before the other students participate, but they could easily do it. It improves their participation, it gets them involved, and they love doing that stuff. And then it's that much less work for you to do. Or have the students make a little mini presentation about the topic of the day. They could do a summary of the day, of the previous days. Just make sure you don't pop it on them, and that's not like a punitive kind of a presentation. It's more of you give them a heads up and they summarize what happened yesterday, or give them a heads up, give them a little bit of a guideline, and they can prepare the material for tomorrow. And then you just clarify or answer questions after they're done. But again, it would take some of the onus off of you and put it onto them and gets them involved. Or, like I said, assign a Khan Academy or a similar type of thing. Khan Academy is the free one, but there are many school districts that have purchased these big online monitoring kind of programs where they give you either math or science or language arts lessons and activities, and you can monitor them as you go. You could create a reading list on Epic Books. There's other ones that do it, other online places or software that different districts have purchased, but you create a reading list or a playlist of things for them to do, and then you can kind of monitor how they've done. And now is the time to encourage that independence, to demand their independence, because you can't do it all online, or you can't do it all yourself. And hey, call in your tribe, call upon other teachers, make friends, share resources, give back to them. I know we always talk about doing that, or we have one teacher we do with, but open up your circle and find places on Facebook or on Teachers Pay Teachers, or create things for yourself, and find other way. There's all kinds of different professional organizations that you can be part of, much less your own school. So really reach out and share. All right, getting there. It's tips number 6. What about playing some games? Have a little fun. Again, I'm saying this. We need to form a community. We need to develop our tribe. We need to connect with our students right now. It's so important with, people are more depressed these days. People are more isolated these days. So we really need to work on that as much as we can. Now, you're probably saying, like, I want to play a game with them over lunch if I'm with them online all day. Okay, no, maybe not. But what about a break time or a snack time? What about maybe a reward for, a solid 40 minutes of work? Then we'll do 10 minutes of playing a game. What about a Friday afternoon game time? You could work this in any way. And I got lots of fun ideas. Have you ever heard of Bamboozle, the website? It's great. It's got tons of games. If you've never been there, just go there and you'll see there's all kinds of pre-made things that you could just click on and play, or you can create your own game. So it's bamboozle.com. What about online bingo? I've done this. These are actually good for fundraisers. That's where I participated in one, or you can use it in your class. You create it online, and you put in all the terms. It could be something related to your class or not, something just fun. And then you enter in all of the emails to people, to the emails of your students, and it sends them randomly generated bingo cards, and then they print out the cards. I suppose if they don't have a printer, they could just write it on a piece of paper, but that way they're participating with paper and pen, the physical paper and pen, and then you are calling out the terms or the numbers or whatever you want it to be. You are calling it out online. So it's this nice mix of online and physical bingo. Or you could play Heads Up, which is that particular image right there is from the Ellen app, where the students download the app. It's free, and they put their cell phone on their head, and right there on the screen you'll see either a person's name or a term or a word that everybody else can see, but the person who's playing cannot see the term. Right, so you give this person clues to guess this word, and it's a lot of fun. So that's Heads Up. Freerice.com is a vocabulary builder, but the more you play it, the more it raises money, and the money then goes to rice for children in third world countries. It's a great way. It starts off really easy and then gets harder and harder. Jigsaw is an online collaborative puzzle where you can, you and your 10 friends. There may be a limit as to how many students can play at one time, but I saw one with 8. 5 or 8 students are all trying to put together puzzle pieces to create one specific image. So that's fun. Or there's just Pictionary. Everybody knows how to play Pictionary, draw an image and guess what it's representing. And you can do that online as well. So have a little fun. What the heck, right? All right. Tip number 7. Take some time off. And I know this is obvious and you're saying, I know that, but literally set an alarm for yourself. That's what I have to do each day. I say at 5 p.m. I am stopping work, and hold yourself to it. And when you stop, turn off the computer. And when you turn off the computer, get up and walk outside. It's so important to feel the fresh air and to get in touch with nature. It will help you, I promise. And do what you enjoy, get back to what you love, cook something, spend time with a friend, read a book. It's so important right now to remember to do those things. So thank you, everybody. I'm really glad you came. I was so glad to share some ideas with you. I'd love to hear back what you think or your other ideas, or if you have any questions, need a little clarification, need a little mini training, I'd be happy to connect with you. Just write to me at Maggie@brennan-consulting.com. Thanks, everybody. Have a good one.